Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 832 podcast. Today we're continuing our series on the parables of Jesus. And before we move on, we actually messed up on the last episode where we said that the parable of the vineyard owner is only in Mark, that it's not found in anywhere else. It is actually found in Matthew.
That's our bad.
So, whoops. I mean, not a catastrophic failure, but still a mistake. And we're going back to Matthew because we realized we missed a couple parables that were still in Matthew. So we're back in here.
Who's doing the research on this show, man? We need to fire our producer.
Yeah, I'm fired. There we go. We're gone.
It's like, I'm just here for color commentary.
Right. But
and beard style.
and beard style, right? He's just here to look pretty.
Right.
And then here I am, actually supposed to be doing stuff and
Right.
just failing. Anyway, today we're going to be covering the parable of the lost sheep. And for whatever reason, someone's calling me.
Don't.
That's funny.
Why?
It's TK. Anyway, I'll call him after this. Anyway, but yeah, the parable of the lost sheep, and we find that in Matthew chapter 18, verses 10 through 14. So I'll go ahead and read that, and then we'll jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
See that you don't look down on one of these little ones, because I tell you that in heaven there are angels continually view the face of my Father in heaven, for the Son of Man has come to save the lost. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them goes astray, won't he leave the 99 on the hillside and go and search for the stray? And if he finds it, I assure you, he rejoices over that sheep more than over the 99 that did not go astray. In the same way, it is not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones perish.
Some people might or might not think about, no, I would just, if I just can't find one, I'll just call it a loss and let that be that. But I have a coat that has, I think, 20 something buttons on it. 20 something. But I'm only looking for the one that popped off.
Right.
I know where the other 20 something are.
Right, so I don't need to worry about the other 20.
Right.
And that's why, we would go after that one sheep that got away. Because it's the one we need to find.
Exactly. And I have 5 kids, so you definitely spend more time looking for the one that's not there than the ones that are.
Right. So where's TJ?
Yeah. Where'd he go? He's the youngest. He's 4.
Yeah. So if anyone's gonna just kind of weasel their way out.
Oh yeah.
Not even weasel. Just he's existing, just not where we are.
Right. Now he just goes poof. It's like, where'd he go?
Oh
no. And it's true. There's no faster animal on the planet than a toddler who you just asked what's in your mouth.
The same goes for animals too.
That's true.
It's like toddlers and animals.
Yeah.
So what's in your mouth?
Wait, what's in your mouth? Zoom! I ain't catching them.
It's like, oh, okay. Guess they'll die then.
Yeah, I got rice in my bag. So y'all go on. They'll get tired eventually. Hungry, something. Someone will call the cops. I don't know.
It'll all work out.
That's what I'm gonna keep telling myself anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, and one thing that comes to my mind when I see the 100 sheep when he leaves the 99 is, of course, that song "Reckless Love."
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, like, we've just been talking about why it actually isn't that reckless to go after the one that got away. It makes a lot of sense because you know where everyone else is.
Right. And the 99 are in the safest place they can be.
Right.
But that one, who knows what they're getting into?
Right.
I mean, sheep these days could be anything.
Right. Oh, sheep these days.
Out there getting a mohawk,
Yeah.
tattoos.
Tattoos. It makes me think of Karate Kid.
Right.
Not Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, the
Cobra Kai,
show.
right.
Yeah, because for those of you who haven't watched the show, there's a character who's taken on the name Hawk. Literally got a huge mohawk and a hawk tattoo with a mohawk.
It's like a big back piece too.
Yeah, it's
like
big
the one of those places you don't really want your first tattoo. It's where he got his first tattoo.
Yeah.
Joking about tattoos, theologically they're at best neutral, but I have a couple, so it's I can't judge.
But yeah, got off on a tangent.
We do that. Well,
like this is the truest tangent where it's like, wait, how is this related?
that's right. Sheep going astray.
Oh, there we go.
And yeah. It's one of my hey, I'm the black sheep in my family.
Right.
You're aware of this. And so, I tend to get a lot of prodigal son references. And is that one in Matthew?
I think actually yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that one too.
Yeah.
It's like my life story. Anyway, not really. I never got an inheritance.
Yeah.
Anyway, it should be right around actually the parable of the lost sheep because it's the same concept.
It's not the same.
It's not that.
It's not close by, but it does exist.
And it's a similar
Right.
situation. Anyway. But it does also tell you that it's not that God's OCD and he has to find the one that is gone out of some compulsion, but it is out of love. That's one of the things that we definitely know is that God does that out of love, not where's the other one?
Right. And I think another interesting part of this is the sheep. I mean, sheep are dumb, and so it may not have been intentional that it got lost.
Well, yes and no. Because I mean, the sheep might not be meaning to wander off and get lost, but they definitely weren't paying attention to where the master was.
Right. And that's how it was inadvertent.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh yeah, screw you, I'm gonna leave.
Right. It's just that they were too busy eating that tasty grass to look up and see where their master was.
And enjoying the pleasures of the world.
Exactly. So, that's a perfect example of how we operate as people. We can just be off doing our own thing because no one keeps their eye on the master 24/7, 365. Like every minute of every day. We should. Our lives would be better if we did, but we don't.
Right.
And I mean, and it's not even that. While we could, and our lives might be better if we did, we're also not really designed that way. That's not how we're made, is to be constantly. Because, I mean, eating.
Right. C.S. Lewis talked about this in Mere Christianity, where like God made matter, so he likes matter, and so food and stuff is an important part of being human. So you shouldn't completely forsake food because you were and stuff or forsake matter because we were never created to be purely spiritual beings.
Right.
If we were supposed to be purely spiritual, we would have been.
Right. And so it's finding the balance of the physical and the spiritual, and you know, as much as you can, make everything honor God. And sometimes I firmly believe that God gave us free will, so He's gonna let us choose sometimes. Like, you know, you have this food. I don't care which one you eat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I mean, I know I've done that.
Well, and like another thing is like food. Well, food. Another aspect of that is that food does help people get closer together when you share a meal with someone. You know, your head goes, "This is tribe," because when you're eating, you're safe, and when you're safe with people, that's your family.
Well, right, and the another good point is that your brain releases oxytocin when you're eating with people. So the people you're eating with, your people call oxytocin, I think, the bonding
Right.
hormone,
Something like that.
and so the people who are around you when that chemical is released, you suddenly feel more attached to. So it's actually a chemical process like built in.
Right. And so I said earlier, you can do everything so that you can glorify God. By eating with other people, you are able to have better relationships with them. And by
Right.
having better relationships with them, you can be better at showing God's glory to them. And so that's the whole point. I mean, like, heck, we drink coffee on the podcast almost every time. It's a part of this thing.
If it's not coffee, it's tea.
Right. And so also it ties into communion.
Oh yeah,
With the
absolutely.
particular like elements, or that there one, that there are elements to communion,
Hmm.
and two, the particular elements.
Right. But no, it's one of the simplest and most basic ways you can show love for another person is give them food.
Right.
You know, and so love one another.
Right. But the whole point of us like going off on this is to say that while food is important,
Uh huh.
and we are material creatures, so
As well as
matter
spiritual.
is important.
It's
It's not what you should focus more on, and like you shouldn't focus on matter. You shouldn't focus on food, the world, more than God.
right because that's when you get lost
Hmm.
and get led astray.
Right, and like I mean, you won't. As humans, you're just simply not capable of being 100% always focused on God, because I mean, you can't be 100% focused all the time on anything as
True.
humans. But like I think of like something that helps is being able to like because you won't be focused on God all the time, but having reminders.
Hmm.
Um, like with you just existing.
Right, and not necessarily less than a focus on God. It's more of I mean, think of the flock. The ones who are right, they know where the master is. They know
Hmm.
where the master wants them to be.
Right, and so yeah, and they can look up and they immediately see the master. The problem with the lounge shape isn't that, like that it was eating it or whatever. It's that it got so distracted that it looked up and couldn't see the master.
Hmm. Or didn't even worry about where the master was. Yeah, and that carries over. And but one of the things that um, we do rather than constant focus is occasional checks. Yes, the master is here. So it can be clear that we're in His will, that we're abiding in Him.
Well, and it's also like what you say, where it's like being a Christian is being a Christian, not following rules.
Right.
So what you do is by being closer to Christ, you are being more like Christ. That's the whole point. And so that ties into this like example of the flock, because you're being with Christ
Hmm.
instead of necessarily constantly like you
Oh,
know
well, right. Because I mean, you're abiding. It's like that's not peace. You know, to be constantly like, is he here? Is he here? Is he here? Am I doing it right? I'm doing it right.
Right.
That's not
Right.
peace.
That's stress.
That's fear, right?
Hmm.
And so that's not how God works, because He said so. You know, um, but you know that is the important thing. Is like, okay, so we're here right now. Seems like a good time to eat. I'll eat here. It doesn't really matter if I eat here or there because this is what we're supposed to be doing right now. You know, uh,
Right.
but not paying attention to what's going on around you can definitely lead you to somewhere you don't want to go.
Right. Like Kendrick and Jenner in your book.
Yes.
And then,
Bring 'em. Yeah. Not gonna have to like send it somewhere.
yeah.
I gotta finish it. Well, the story is done. It's just short. You know.
Right.
Um.
It's
It,
like, and I mean, it's not like you can. I mean, you could write more, but it probably wouldn't be with Kendrick. It wouldn't be with Kendrick and Jenner. It wouldn't.
right.
It wouldn't be that pair.
No. It would.
Oh, but you did leave it open at the ending
Well, yeah.
with the crew at that one tower.
Right.
So that'll be interesting.
Um. Well, you never want to. It's a world that's gonna keep going. You know. I don't know what story would want to tell in it next, but it's a world that could continue existing and people continue living and doing things in it, but that's not the point. Well, but to come back to, yeah, sometimes you can get distracted. Was that him? Maybe that was him. Let me go check it out. When it was definitely not. He's way back there. You know, um, or I think he wants me to drink out of this stream. When that's not.
Right. Well, and because he was distracted by the world and all of that, and yeah, I just really like that example because it's so applicable
Mm-hmm.
to people's lives. Like you know, like new Christians and Christians who, well, and Kendrick and Jenner have been like followers in the faith for a minute,
Uh huh.
and so
Yeah, but it was in the city where it was safe and everything was as perfect as it could be. Now they're out, so they're having to
right,
deal with things that don't always go as planned, where it's hard to feel the king's presence. So
right,
that's how it is. When sheep are not like in the pen, when they're out in the field doing their thing. So
yeah. Granted, I mean Kendrick and Jenner weren't lost sheep. They were just like, oh, whoops.
yeah, well, yeah, just because they're lost doesn't mean they're not still part of the shepherd's flock. It's just that they're not where the shepherd wants them to be, and therefore they are in greater danger, which is actually exactly where Kendrick and Jenner were.
Right.
So that's no, I mean it works on a lot of levels. I'm not bragging about my own book. It's just funny how looking back on it, it's like, oh well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what one thing that everyone always like whenever you hear about this parable, it's always God loves you so 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 much, and it's like I mean yeah, but it's also a really neat and that was the purpose
Hmm.
of why Jesus was telling this. Like it was to be like
Hmm.
these small people are important,
Right.
um, and it is it's really insightful to how humans function.
And really, yeah, he'll do it, but you don't want to be that sheep.
Right.
You know.
Right. It's like yeah, he'll save you, but you don't want to be the one that's lost. You don't want to wander away because you would rather be with the shepherd, right? So be near
It's
the
safer
shepherd.
there. It's better there. I don't care what you think you saw over there. It's not as good as what you have back here.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not to guilt anybody who falls away. It's more, for those of us in the fold, like, don't be that sheep.
Right.
Or if you think suddenly you are that sheep, get back. Do
Right.
the best you can.
Right. And like to put it the most positively, I guess it's like it's better to stay here
Right.
because out there happens to suck.
Yes. And the closer you are to the shepherd, the better your life is.
hmm
Even as the sheep, because food's taken care of, water taken care of. All you have to worry about is following the shepherd.
Right.
Funny.
Right. It all works. It all works.
Yeah, didn't really see. I mean, some things we're learning too. I don't like know all this stuff that I say ahead of time necessarily, ever. And sometimes like as I'm working through something, I'm talking about it. So I'm learning as I'm talking. That's how I figure things out. I read, talk through things. So this is one of those moments where, you know, as long as you're near the shepherd, all you have to worry about is where he's leading you.
Right.
But further out, it's like you got to start worrying about are there wolves around? Am I in the wrong place? Is there a cliff nearby? Or you're
Right. And like once you're doing stuff on your own volition, that's on your own. That's when problems really start happening.
mm-hmm,
And like we hear that at church all the time. Rely on God. Don't rely on your own will.
mm-hmm,
Or your own understanding.
that too.
Because you're not the shepherd.
Exactly.
You're not God. You're not. And like the moment you're farther falling away from God, things just get difficult.
Yeah, and I think just with all this, the more you think about the more layers there are to it, and it's just amazing how when Jesus spoke, he has 4 verses, and with chasing a few rabbits here, we found a lot of depth and nuance just in those 4 verses.
Right. Now this is a fun song.
Happens to go off when my phone does.
Yeah. It's always interesting when we're just popular today.
We really
You
are.
know, people be calling us up and whatever, because we're everybody's favorite people. uh,
I mean,
we're not. I mean, like,
we are pretty.
yeah. And it's like I jest, but at the same time, most people that we know don't hate us.
Yeah, generally speaking. But I mean, we just goof and we forget to put our phones on do not disturb.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we're getting calls in the middle of the podcast going, "Oh, well, this isn't awkward at all."
It's like, well, I mean,
amateurs.
yeah. It's just. I mean, we're authentic.
You're not
Like
wrong.
what you see on the podcast is essentially what.
This is real, y'all.
Yeah,
This is for real, for real.
Yeah, real phone calls.
Right.
So
Anyway, I don't think there's really a whole lot more to say about it. Not only Jesus come after you if you get yourself lost, but it's better not to get lost.
Yeah, because being lost isn't fun.
Right.
It's more work. It's not peace.
And the closer you are to the master, the less you have to worry about.
Yeah. So with that, pray us out, Dad.
Absolutely. Oh God, dear Lord, your word is awesome, and there's just so much there, so much love and power. I praise you for that, Lord. I ask that our lives bring you glory, and that we do the work you have for us. And give us what we need to do it. Help us to stay with the flock, Lord. Help us to keep the shepherd as close as possible and just abide in him. And don't let us get distracted with streams or squirrels or girls or whatever. And deliver us from the evil one. I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.